Emmanuel Hostin, the husband of The View host Sunny Hostin, has been accused of widespread insurance fraud, and Sunny basically admitted to it on camera. Let's talk about it.
Like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of.
Sunny Hostin just got hit with a legal hurricane. And guess who's dancing in the storm? That's right. GregGutfeld and Kat Timpf are roasting her harder than a Thanksgiving turkey with a subpoena. Her husband's $450 million fraud case is the gift that keeps on giving, and the punchlines? They're richer than the alleged offshore accounts. Stick around, because what Gutfeld and Timpf just said will have you questioning reality. And your lawyer.
You look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sunny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases.
Sunny Hostin must have woken up that morning thinking it was just another day to play judge, jury, and moral overlord on The View. You know the usual routine. A sprinkle of self-righteousness, a dash of elitist sighing, and a full buffet of unsolicited scolding for America. But plot twist, the universe had other plans. Because while Sunny was out there lecturing the masses on ethics, justice, and how we're all just a few IQ points below her, bam. The headlines dropped like a gavel. From Karma's courtroom, her husband is facing a fraud case so massive, it makes Bernie Madoff look like a lemonade stand scammer.
I want to hit myself in the face so I can feel something. You know, it's like so boring. He's like, yeah, I like Instacart, but don't worry, I tip the poors. But, you know, Joy, you actually don't like Instacart, and you do like the store. And then Joy is like, yeah, I do. I like to go to the store. I like to walk around and see what's at the store, what I do want, what I don't want. Maybe I want tuna fish, and I just want to...
Greg and Kat, oh, they devoured it. Gutfeld practically licked his fingers after delivering his punchlines, treating the scandal like dry-aged hypocrisy carved tableside. This wasn't just another segment. It was a gourmet roast served on fine china with a side of smug slap reduction. Kat? She took one look at the headline and laughed like someone who's been saving receipts for years.
About The View, it's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest.
This wasn't breaking news to her. It was destiny in designer heels. She could barely contain the joy as she watched Sunny's halo slowly melt under the heat lamp of justice, revealing the glittering crown of contradiction beneath. Because let's be honest, if hypocrisy were a luxury brand, The View would have franchised it by now. And Sunny? She's been the top saleswoman. You don't get to serve up daily diatribes about ethics and corruption, then quietly tiptoe off stage. When your own household starts looking like a deleted scene from The Wolf of Wall Street, that's not how moral consistency works, Sunny. The Witch's Coven doesn't grant immunity just because you dress it in courtroom couture.
The Witch's Coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently, the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys.
They said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs. Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy.
That's how plot holes in bad movies work. Except in this case, the script was written by Karma and edited by Gutfeld's writing room. Greg even joked that Sunny should launch a new segment called Allegedly Yours, where she gives hot takes. From the moral high ground while dodging subpoenas, Kat chimed in with her usual deadpan. Finally, a storyline on The View that's accidentally entertaining. If laughter truly is the best medicine, Kat and Greg just prescribed a year's supply to everyone suffering from The View's usual doom and gloom drill. They weren't just reveling in the scandal. They were surgically dismantling the entire framework of self-importance that The View has constructed like an overpriced IKEA bookshelf. And when that thing collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions, Greg and Kat didn't flinch. They just poured themselves a drink and raised a toast to poetic justice, served extra spicy. Greg Gutfeld didn't just stop at sarcasm. He practically installed a sarcasm slip and slide and invited the whole country to ride it straight through. The ruins of Sunny's credibility. He weaponized irony like it was a tactical nuke, casually reminding everyone that Sunny had spent the last several years perfecting the art of delivering lectures so sanctimonious they made Catholic sermons feel like TikTok sound bites.
All right.
Line of public figures who thought moral superiority came with diplomatic immunity. Kat laid it out like a science fair project gone wrong. Her tone implied, observe how one woman's decades-long ethics cosplay collapses when real-life accountability peeks through the window like a repo man with a clipboard. She even mocked The View's on-air tone, a weird mix of brunch gossip and courtroom theatrics, by suggesting their next segment could be titled Financial Crimes and Finger Wagging. A guide to having it both ways.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000.
Greg, never one to be outdone, floated the idea that Sunny's next appearance should feature one of those spinning game show wheels. Today's hot topic: fraud, privilege, or selective outrage. Spin to find out what we're ignoring today. Backstage chaos must have looked like a live-action soap opera fused with a crisis PR seminar taught by interns. Picture it: cue cards being burned, teleprompters glitching from cognitive dissonance, and producers hissing into earpieces. For the love of ratings, somebody bring up Meghan Markle. Anything to avoid the $450 million elephant tap dancing through their glass house of televised morality. And let's talk about those co-hosts for a moment. The same crew who can sniff out a GOP parking violation from 6 time zones away suddenly adopted a new mantra. When it's one of their own tangled in a multi-million-dollar financial scandal, it's all, let's give her privacy. And we're focusing on love and light today. Love and light, by the way, is code for we've hired a lawyer and we're not touching this with a Joy Behar monologue. Greg, of course, could barely contain his glee. The scandal was like giving a flamethrower to a guy already juggling fireworks. And Kat? She looked like she was watching her favorite reality TV finale. Except in this version, the fake houseplants are suing for defamation.
No, I'm also not surprised that there's one part of the video from the show yesterday that you left out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can we roll that, please?
I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen it.
Who is that? Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five. Who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this: his show should be called Kat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
Somebody's flirting with little Kat over here.
Well, she's the Republican one at the table, but I just think as a libertarian, I'm always looking to find common ground with other people because nobody really shares my politics. So I find some common ground in The View where she thinks I'm funny and I agree.
They knew this wasn't just a Sunny Hostin meltdown, it was an entire media ecosystem tripping over its own smugness, falling face first into a pit of its own platitudes. And while The View spiraled into damage control, Gutfeld and Timpf cranked their sarcasm engines to full blast, because when your show basically functions as a sanctimony factory and one of the founding managers gets dragged into a $450 million fraud case, you don't just lose credibility, you lose your moral GPS entirely. In Sunny's case, that GPS may have been recalibrated to avoid Accountability Boulevard. Take a hard left onto Deflection Lane. By now, Greg and Kat weren't just criticizing a talk show. They were poking a bloated, gasping balloon of elite hypocrisy just to hear it wheeze out the last remaining puffs of self-righteousness. And America? America was watching from the front row, popcorn in hand, wondering how The View was going to spin this one without accidentally reinventing fiction. Gutfeld naturally took it a step further. He didn't just laugh at the situation, he painted it as a masterclass in accidental self-parody. He called out The View's weekly sermon about how the right is corrupt, greedy, and basically evil incarnate. But here we are. Sunny's financial fairy tale has turned into a courtroom drama.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
And the best part? The sheer volume of the alleged fraud. This wasn't a parking ticket or a misfiled tax return. This was the kind of number that makes Wall Street CEOs nod in evil appreciation. Kat, never one to miss an opportunity to break. The fourth wall of media hypocrisy pointed out how The View somehow skipped covering their own co-host scandal with the same fire and fury they reserve for, say, a conservative sneezing in the wrong tone. No panel discussion, no dramatic music stings, just a quiet shuffle to the next topic, as if a $450 million fraud case was a minor wardrobe malfunction. Imagine if this had been anyone on the right. Meghan McCain would have been tied to a stake and burned live on ABC. Greg, in his ever-cheeky fashion, started drawing comparisons. It's as if irony packed its bags, moved to Manhattan, and bought a front-row ticket to The View. Kat added the cherry on top, the apparent silence from Sunny, no grand speeches, no heartfelt soliloquies about how justice will prevail.
You know who just stunk up The View. The Bidens joined The View this morning for the entire hour. The audience was caught off guard, but knew something was up when they saw a dozen Secret Service agents and 2 embalmers. There were a few awkward moments, though, when a confused Joe asked if he could bid on the showcase. But was he surprised?
Meanwhile, Greg turned his sarcasm dial to 11 and practically melted the circuitry. It was less commentary and more performance art, the kind where irony wears tap shoes and dances across every ounce of Sunny sanctimony. He didn't suggest a GoFundMe for legal defense. Please, that would be far too cliche. No, he proposed something way more practical, a nationwide popcorn fund. Because, let's face it, this saga had all the makings of a box office hit, and the American public deserves front-row snacks while watching the sanctimonious ship take on water. And just when you thought the roast was done, he turned up the heat. Sunny's next career move? Forget law. Forget daytime TV. There's clearly a publishing deal in her future, a literary masterclass in contradiction. The hypocrisy didn't just leak, it marinated. Here was a woman who spent years building a public persona based on sanctimony and legal expertise, while apparently living in a home where the financial documents had more plot twists than a M. Night Shyamalan movie. And what did The View do in response? A group hug and collective amnesia, because accountability, like common sense, is in short supply over there. Kat, never one to let absurdity pass without fireworks, reminded everyone of the last time The View turned a minor conservative gaffe into a week-long ethics seminar.
Oh. That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull.
Hey, let's circle back to Fashion Week, she joked. She even suggested renaming the show The Skew for its uncanny ability to twist anything uncomfortable into a roundtable of eye rolls and softball questions. Greg, ever the showman, concluded, with the ultimate hypothetical, imagine if I or Kat were even tangentially connected to a fraud case of that scale. We'd be canceled faster than Joy Behar forgets she's supposed to let people finish a sentence. It's true. The double standard wasn't just showing, it was doing cartwheels down Broadway. And let's not forget, this isn't the first scandal to orbit The View. No, this place is like a magnet for public blunders wrapped in righteous packaging. But this one took the cake, baked it with irony, and served it on a silver platter of shade and fire. Greg and Kat didn't just eat it, they turned it into a 6-course meal of mockery, garnished with a side of "we told you so." But what made their takedown particularly delicious wasn't the volume, it was the surgical precision. They didn't need to yell or rant. They just highlighted the glaring absurdity of a moral crusader caught in a net woven from everything she's ever warned us about.
How many co-hosts has The View had since it first started? I've lost count. I don't know any of these people.
No, that's because they don't stick around long enough. There's been 17 since 1997. That's a lot. That's because they're women.
Oh, really?
Their hormones, they're changing their minds. I don't want to work here. Yes, I do. That's why. Women are always changing jobs every day.
Wow,
I just quit.
Direct mail to Catherine Timpf. Not me. I disavow everything she said.
And The View? Well, they just kept spinning in circles, hoping the storm would pass. Spoiler alert, it won't. Not while people like Gutfeld and Tim have microphones and functioning sarcasm receptors. The real takeaway here isn't just the scandal, it's what it reveals about the ecosystem of smugness that The View has become. A place where accountability is outsourced, double standards are imported, and reality is spun like it's on a cable news washing machine cycle. And while Sunny's legal team is presumably doing yoga to stay calm, the rest of us are just here for the comedy. Greg and Kat did what they always do best, expose the hypocrisy, laugh in its face, and serve it back to us with the kind of flair that makes even the scandal feel like a sitcom. Except this time, the sitcom comes with a court date and a $450 million plot twist. In the end, The View may try to carry on like nothing happened. But thanks to Greg and Kat, this story has been permanently carved into the Hall of Hypocrisy, framed under the bold headline Sunnyside Fraud. And no matter how much makeup, lighting, or spin The View throws on it, the facts and the jokes aren't going anywhere. You better believe Greg and Kat will be right there when the sequel drops.